Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Winter is coming. Today we're going to talk about what to do to get your vegetables ready and help your ornamentals and trees have an easier time surviving the cold weather. That's just ahead of the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Tom Mashour. Mr. Tom is an Extension Master Gardener in Tipton County. Ms. Joellen Dimond is with us. Joellen is the Director of Landscape at the University of Memphis.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
All right, Mr. Tom, let's talk about winterizing the vegetable garden.
Well, like right now, for most parts, your winter garden should be going dormant unless you have a fall crop growing right now. And I'm going to be talking about three different things, but the first thing I want to talk about is weeds.
All right. Yeah.
Taking an artist starting a new project, they like to start with a clean palette.
All right. I like that. Okay.
And I think that we should do the same thing in our gardens. So in the spring, when you're ready to plant, it looks like it's ready to go. You have to be down on your hands and knees.
Right.
But so I'm going to talk, like I said, about weeds. And there's pretty much three common ways to handle the weed problems in your garden. First one is chemicals. A non-selective herbicide to kill the weeds, and it will do the trick. But there's also some problems with it. One of the problems is that some people don't want chemicals in their garden.
Sure.
Secondly, by the way, it is cheap and really quick to do it. But because of the cool weather, chemicals, the herbicides, take a lot longer to take effect. Meanwhile, the plant doesn't know that, and it's going out and putting out more seeds. So that's the drawback of it.
Right.
Another way is the mechanical way is using a tiller. Now, a tiller will do the trick, but we're in the days now of no-till gardening. And secondly, when you till and you got weeds, you're planting the weeds.
Right.
So you're getting them ready for next year's crop.
Right.
Or you can do the, my particular favorite is hand weeding.
Oh, that's what I do at home. I'm with
And
you.
I prefer it. And if you spend the time during the growing season, maybe 15, 20 minutes a week, and you're getting those weeds when they're small, hand weeding is not a big deal.
Right.
It's not really bad at all. And when you pull the weeds out, they're gone.
They're gone. That's right.
Seeds and all, roots,
That's right.
whatever. And of course, you do not want to compost it.
Right.
You just get rid of them.
Okay.
Another thing I want to talk about is mulching. Right now, we're going to be entering the season of abundant leaves.
Right.
And I do not, matter of fact, I got a shredder I don't even use anymore. Everything from my lawns, the grass, the leaves, go directly to the garden. They do not pass go, do not collect $200. Right. They go right out to it. Why not take these leaves and put them in the garden rather than setting them out on the street to the city to get rid of?
Right, I agree.
So it's free, relatively free. Shredding would actually be a better way of doing it, but like I said, it's really a step that you can really avoid. You don't have to really do it. Matter of fact, I'll probably do it today. My lawn is weed free. Doesn't look very pretty because there's leaves and grass and all over it, but I'm going to hit it with some high nitrogen fertilizer to help it decompose, to break down a little bit better. And another way is planting legumes, which is a ground cover for winter use. And being legumes take the nitrogen out of the air, which is, by the way, 87% nitrogen, and puts it in the soil. As a matter of fact, in California, the professional farmers in the San Joaquin Valley, where I used to live, about every 5th year, they plant alfalfa for the same very reason. And the orchards in California, they plant a winter crop and then just get in when it starts getting hot. And they use the expression green manure. And it works out really well.
Okay. And these are what, clovers, hairy vetch?
Hairy vetch, crimson clover.
Crimson clover, right.
Even annual rye. Of
Okay.
course, I don't like annual rye.
Yeah.
But because they're in the garden, lawns and stuff like that.
Right.
But crimson clover is supposed to be very good. And the nice thing, crimson clover puts a big mat out. And then you can take and just cut it off in the spring at ground level, and the roots decay. And since they're legumes, it breaks down and feeds the worms. And one thing about worms, by the way, worms live in the soil.
Right.
But they eat organic matter. And if you don't put organic matter, they only got two choices, die or move.
Right.
So the more organic matter you put in there, the healthier you're going to have as far as worms go. The better worms you got, the healthier garden you're going to have.
Yeah, you want worms. I mean, they're your tillers in the garden.
Yeah, they're called nature's gardener.
That's right. That's right.
And the third thing is planning
Okay.
for purposes of what you're going to be doing next year. And come probably within the next month or so, you're going to start getting all the seed catalogs.
Yes.
And it's time to pick out what you want. And one of the things that's pretty common to do is divide your garden into quadrants, usually 4. And you rotate your crops each year from one quadrant to the next, to the next, to the next. So what was in quadrant 1? Okay. You move to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 goes to 1, which helps to keep from spreading diseases. Rather than planting, as you know, like on tomato plants, they say don't plant them 2 years in a row in the same place. Yeah. That's pretty much with all vegetables. So by doing that, you're reducing the chances of having soil-borne problems. Okay. In my own personal way, is I do it in 3s, a third. And the reason is I keep 1/3 in cool weather crops and the other 2 in summer crops. And I still rotate them. And as you know, and Joellen knows, that all vegetables and most other plants are listed as either cool season or warm season. You never see them listed as cold season or hot season.
Right. Right.
But so your cool season, like right now I got cool season crops going right now. Onions, beets, cabbages, and that's pretty much what I got growing right now. So you want to do that, do your crop rotation, and plan what you're going to put where. Okay. Now, the reason why my summer crop plots or quadrants is double that of the winter time is a lot of your summertime plants are vines. You know, like squash, beans, and things of that nature. So you need more area.
Sure.
In the cool weather crops, usually there's no vining plants. You know, you go radishes, broccoli, cauliflower.
And most of the leafy vegetables.
Yes.
When do you normally start your seeds indoors?
Okay.
Next year?
Well, I got them information that tells you when to do it. But typically, on your summer type crops, or even your fall type crops, 6 weeks before I can put them in the ground. 6 weeks seems to be just about the right time for the plants to go from, from seed to planting size. Okay. So like my cabbages, I started those on July the 1st. And by August the 15th, they were ready to go in the ground, which is still hot, but they're small and they can handle the heat because they don't have big leaves on them where it gets burned up. And by the time it starts cooling off, they're ready to stretch. They really are.
What about your spring vegetables, though? When would you start those?
What kind?
Your spring.
Spring.
Right.
Again, our typical frost-free date is April the 15th. Okay. So I will start those, depending on what my plants are. For example, on peppers, I will start them 2 months before the frost-free date. Okay. Tomatoes, no more than 6 weeks, because they grow so fast. Right. You know, you can almost feel like trying to get out of the container. And there, of course, there are also the like sugar snap peas. You plant those the 1st of February outside. Outside. Okay. Outside. So you look at your charts where they use the Tennessee's Department of Agriculture, Growing Vegetables and Home Gardens.
Yeah, which is a good publication that you
It's excellent, has, but it's made for the whole state.
Right, right. It's real good.
But it gives you a good guideline. Tells you when to put the plants out, and all you have to do is back up 6 weeks from those dates, and you got when to plant them.
Right, yeah, that's a real good publication. I tell people it's the ultimate cheat sheet. I mean, that thing really It was good for the whole state, as you mentioned before. Mr. Tom, thank you for that good information.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Well, it's the beginning of November here in the perennial garden that we have for the butterflies and the pollinators. We don't see any butterflies anymore, but we do have got bee action on our aster. This is a perfect time of year for the aster to be blooming, and it attracts the pollinators. Then you have the lantana that's still blooming, and some of the other vinca and other zinnia annuals that are still blooming. The sedum has just passed its bloom time, so it'll be forming seed heads. And then the butterfly weed is going to seed over here. So we'll collect some of this seed to plant for this next year to have more butterfly weed for the butterflies. But everything looks good here in the butterfly garden.
All right, Joellen, what do we need to know about ornamentals and trees in the fall and the winter?
All sorts of things going on in the next few months. Number one thing, of course, is leaves. And leaves are everywhere. And, you know, interestingly enough, the reason we would get nice fall color is because the leaves all have those pigments all year long, but chlorophyll is masking their color.
Right.
So either day length and temperature are two triggers for the tree saying, you know, you've stored up enough carbohydrates this year in your root system, so it's time to lose the leaves. So the chlorophyll dies, and then we have the pretty colors, and then they fall off the trees.
Beautiful colors.
Then the falling off the trees is our problem because they get everywhere.
Right.
And if you can at all possible, try to use your leaves for mulching your beds with them instead of buying mulch. You've got ready-made mulch already. But one thing is you want to keep the leaves off the lawn, because when you think about it, trees, when they lose their leaves in the forest, they mulch themselves.
That's right.
But they don't have any lawns in forests. So, you know, we don't want the leaves on top of the lawns to decompose our grass, because we're trying to get grass to grow there.
Right.
So we have to collect the leaves off of the grass. So you can blow them off, but if you have large quantities of them, it's nice to get them and compost them. You can do several things with them. Like Tom, I put mine in my garden.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's great mulch and great composting, but you know, some people have composting bins, you can put them in there. And some people say, well, I have too much. Well, try mulching mowers and mulch them in place if you can.
That's what I do, right.
You know, because this is one thing that happens is it changes the structure of the ground. It puts organic matter down there that worms can grow, so then you're gonna increase your porosity of your soils. So then when it rains and there's runoff from your rain, from your roof and everything else, there is more area to absorb them before it runs off of your property. So it keeps all your water on your own property and you don't contribute to water runoff. So it's always a good thing to keep as many leaves as you possibly can.
I would agree.
But of course that's going to be something that you can work on for a long time, because it takes a long time for all the leaves to fall off in the winter.
Yes, it does.
It does. And you know, there's another thing you can do. It's called lasagna gardening. And I know it's not exactly the best time of year to do it, but you can put cardboard down in even a grassy area. It doesn't matter if you want to make a new bed. And then you layer it with leaves, and then, you know, the frost is going to come, and all of the basils and the flowers, the annual flowers that you had, need to be pulled up. Well, that can be your green in between the layers of leaves, and you can build up a nice bed, and it would be ready to plant in the spring.
Okay.
So you can do that with them too.
That's good.
Now, since we're talking about trees, we got to remember about young trees, and especially thin-skinned bark trees. Sun scald is a really bad problem, because what happens in the winter is it's nice and warm and hot and sunny during the day. The bark warms up, and then at night the temperatures sometimes fall really low, and then that causes the bark on the sides of that tree to crack. And sun scald cracks take years for trees to overcome, and sometimes they never do.
Right.
So if you can wrap your trees, especially your small trees and thin-skinned barked trees, it would be good to buy some tree wrap for it. It's usually white or an off-white color of some kind. And if you don't have that, how about an old sheet? You just put it into strips and just put it around the base of the
okay.
tree to help keep the sun scald from happening to your small trees. Also critters.
Yes.
You don't want to pile up mulch around the base of any large shrubs or trees, because voles especially are notorious mice. They will burrow in that nice mulch that you have, and then, oh, here's a food source, and start nibbling on the base of your trees and shrubs. So you don't want to put a lot of thick mulch around that. But I mean, some loose leaves is nice if you think it needs it. But yeah, that's one thing you can keep away. Plus, some people have problems with deer and rabbits. And you need a physical barrier for that. Either some wire fencing or some plastic fencing, whatever you can put around it to physically barrier the animals away, keep them away from your trees and your special shrubs.
That's a good point.
So that's going to be something. Also, November and December is the best time to plant bulbs for spring blooming flowers. Daffodils are especially, get your most money for daffodils because they will come back every year almost reliably. Tulips and some of the others will come back sporadically, but they all are a great, nice spring burst of color. And highly recommend going ahead and putting some in the ground around your house or in containers and enjoying the bloom that they have in the spring.
I would agree. You can't go wrong with those.
November and December is it. I mean, you got to give them January and February to be able to get enough strength to, you know, make roots and break shoots. So you really need to be in the ground before December. I mean, before January. Let's see, mulch, of course.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I say a nice layer of mulch, because you want a layer of mulch. It acts like a blanket for around the roots of all the trees and shrubs. They like to have that. It keeps the temperature more even when the temperature outside isn't always, you know, nice and even, sunny in the daytime, warmer, then goes down cold at night. But the layer of mulch, no matter what kind of material it is, will help keep that more even. Perennials, great time to divide in plant perennials. In fact, it's a great time. Fall is the best time of year to plant any kind of plant because our ground here doesn't freeze.
Right.
So it's the best time to go ahead and incorporate those trees and shrubs, perennials in your landscape, and they'll be set for the spring.
Makes sense.
Pruning. February is when I usually start thinking about pruning.
Okay.
Because the leaves are gone from the trees. You can see branching patterns, and you can correct things that are wrong, like crossing branches and maybe crotch angles that are too narrow. And also, crepe myrtles is the best time of year to start pruning crepe myrtles. And monkey grass, or the liriopes. It's time to cut those down and discard the leaves, because a lot of times you get rust on the leaves and spots on the leaves, and if that's a disease. So if you cut them off, the old growth, discard all of that, you will help get rid of some of your disease problems on your liriope.
Right. You can do that with the lawnmower or weed eater.
Either one. And protection. Now, sometimes I have camellias and I have some loropendyliums, and you know, it gets cold sometimes. And I want to protect those blooms and those tender perennials. I've got a gardenia now, so I want to see how it does in the winter. But even though it's a hardy gardenia, we get some single-digit temperatures around here, which is more zone 6 and 5 than it is us in here in 7. So protecting them is good. Always keep around some plastic, large pieces of plastic and some extra sheets. And what I usually do, because plastic is usually clear. I mean, if you can get black plastic, that's nice too, but clear plastic will do, and that's more available. And you put a sheet over the plant and then put the plastic over that, so that if you don't happen to get the plastic off because you have to go to work the next day and it's going to heat up that day, you don't get the greenhouse effect underneath there. So that's to protect it from doing that and getting too hot underneath the plastic.
Now, does the sheet need to be supported? You know, so
it would be nice if you can. If you can't, at least something is better than nothing. But the most important thing is for the plastic to go ground to ground to ground to ground.
Good point.
Because that's where the air heat gets trapped in at night. But those are just some of the things that you can do to get yourself through the winter and into spring.
Those are some good things. Thank you, Ms. Joellen. That's good stuff.
It's late in the year here in the square foot garden, and pretty soon we're going to be expecting a frost. And some people wonder, when do you pick eggplant? When is the right size to pick it? Well, it's not so much does it need to be big enough like you think of tomatoes or peppers or things like that, but the question is it needs to be small enough. So looking at this eggplant right here, we have an eggplant that is still small for this particular plant, but it is large enough to pick. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off, and we'll keep that so it doesn't freeze. And that is a pretty small eggplant, but the important thing is that it needs to still be shiny and it needs to be purple. So over here we have a larger fruit, quite a bit larger. It's still shiny, so it is good to pick. Now, you'll know that an eggplant has gone too far and is no longer good to pick when it loses that shine. When it starts to ripen farther, it'll lose its shine, it'll start to turn yellow, and it'll be bitter and not any good to eat. So just make sure that you still have the shine on it, but let it get as large as you can before that point, because that way you get a larger fruit.
Here's our Q&A segment. Mr. Tom, you jump in there and help us out, all right? Here's our first viewer email. I have this plant at my house in Midtown. My sister refers to it as the Chinese paper tree, or I like this kudzu tree. I would like to know what it really is. It is very prolific. I have never seen any flowers. It seems to propagate by runners, and it is taking over my yard. How do I get rid of it? I am thinking that digging them up is the only solution. And this is from Max in Memphis. So, Chinese paper tree or kudzu tree? You want to help him out, Joellen, with that one?
Yeah, actually, sometimes called the paper mulberry, but it's really not related to mulberry trees, because mulberry trees are the genus Morus. This is, oh gosh, Bronsonetia.
Okay, good.
And so,
good.
you know, but they're different families.
Right.
The problem is this was originally brought over as a shade tree, but they found out it's very prolific around here. It escaped cultivation,
of course,
and is out in the wild.
Out in the wild.
And she is right. They do reproduce by seeds. They reproduce by rhizomes, and they will become a thicket and get rid of everything in there. So it is invasive in this area. So yes, it should be gotten rid of. But
so how do you get rid? I mean, I guess.
Well, yeah, you could. I mean, you can spray it if you wanted to with a herbicide, a non-selective or herbicide. Right. But yeah, cutting it out, digging it up is going to be your. Because look at all of the carbohydrate reserves in the roots.
Exactly.
If you don't start digging it up and getting rid of the roots themselves, you're going to have years of having that carbohydrate reserve popping up. Yeah. Plants everywhere.
Wow.
So yeah, she's right. She needs to dig them up.
Max, yeah, you got to, strong back.
Yeah.
Start digging those things up. And, I always like to refer to Dr. Durr, Michael Durr. He actually called the tree, the paper mulberry, a weed in the South, considered to be very invasive.
Yes.
And he's the man,
Yes,
so that's what it said. Considered a weed in the South, and it's very invasive.
Very invasive.
Oh, Max. You got a lot of work ahead of you.
Yes, you do. But everybody around you thanks you for trying to get rid of it, because then it won't be a problem after you get rid of it.
Sure. All right, so thank you for that question, Max. All right, here's a letter.
Oh, wow.
It's a letter. I have had a water vine plant that has been growing in water for about 7 months. It was happy and growing well. Now the leaves are turning yellow, but not wilting. Also, there is green mold growing in the bottom of the container. What should I do to help my yellowing water vine plant? And this is from Stephen in Whiteville, Tennessee. All right.
Very good.
So the water vine plant has been growing in water for about 7 months, but we have the green mold and yellowing leaves.
Well, of course, the green mold is not a good sign. That's the sign that it's got bacteria or something growing in the water, algae, nothing else.
Right.
And I'm sure he's cleaned it out and re-put new water in. Does it have enough light? I hope it's got enough light, but more importantly, maybe it needs nutrients. It's in a container with water.
Yeah, water.
But is it supposed to go in a pond outside? Is it supposed to be in a fish tank? Mm-hmm. Because if it was in a fish tank, the fish would have, provide the nutrients that it would feed the plant.
Okay.
But maybe it's lacking nutrients if it's yellow and it's got plenty of light.
That's
Maybe
what I
the
would think.
water has not got enough. Just water itself doesn't have enough nutrients to keep it green.
Well,
I agree with that. Go ahead.
I have some bamboo plants that grow strictly in water.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I take a teaspoon of water-soluble fertilizer to a gallon of water.
Okay.
And every time I add water to it, I'm giving a little weak solution. And the plants are extremely healthy by doing that.
Okay. So we're all thinking the same thing, nutrients.
Nutrients.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So there you have it, Mr. Stephen. We're thinking nutrients. All right. Mr. Joellen, Mr. Tom, we're out of time. It's been fun.
It's been fun.
Good.
Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about anything we talked about today, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We have tons of information on these topics and many others. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.